Hello, this is Mr. Agbamu Idonogrene. In today's lesson, we are going to start with forework, which is plane shapes or two-dimensional shapes, which is also called 2D. So today being 27th of January 2026, which is Tuesday, we are starting this topic. Yesterday, we did review of our test. So I've sent the video for the explanation of the test questions. So you can go to the Google Classroom, check with forework, you will see video for the test and you will understand those areas you have issues with and how to solve the question. So today, let's start with our first lesson for this topic, plane shapes. So today is just a basic introduction, the meaning of plane shapes, identify types of plane shapes, and the types of plane shapes, I'm going to do them in groups. So you will get it as I explain. Then finally, we'll look at properties of common plane shapes. But the properties, I may not write them out. We may just mention them as we talk in the class. So tomorrow, we start the properties in details. Pick a type of plane shapes and analyze the properties together. So let's go. So this is the meaning of plane shapes, a shape that has flat surfaces that they are called plane shapes. So what I mean by flat surfaces, I'm talking about your tabletop, just the top of the table, not the thickness, just the top, like the your board now where we write our notes, just the surface of the board is a flat surface. So all those are examples of plane shape. They have only length, they don't have breadth, they only have length and breadth, sorry, they don't have thickness. They only have length and breadth, no thickness. So these are common examples, the rectangle, the squares, and the rest. So that is that. To explain this better, let me show you this applet. As I promised in class, I'm going to send this applet, this GeoGebra Classic applet. I'm going to send the link of this applet to our Google Classroom. Just click on the link of this applet. You can play around with it and understand it better. Now, this is the 2D face. This is just a plain surface. While this is 3D face, I want you to see something so that you can differentiate between them. As I come to my 2D, let me draw something here. Let me just draw a four-sided shape, like a rectangle. If you observe, as I'm drawing here, it's appearing on this side. Just be watching. So now that I'm through, as I click on move, see it's now here. Now, as I move this around, you can see that the plane shapes remain the same. As I made it to face us directly, you can see the rectangle is showing. But if I make it to face us on horizontal level like this, you will see that it's just a straight line. So you can't see a thickness. So this is why we said plane shape does not have thickness. This is just a straight line. A line does not have thickness. It only have length. So but when I make it like this to face us, you can see it have a length and a breadth. So if I move this around, you can see the way it's moving on the flat surface here on this place. So let me see if I can remove these houses so that we can see the floor very well. So this is the floor. Now that I've removed the houses, so I can play around with it. You can see I can move one of this leg here to form something like a triangle. You can see I can play with the triangle around. So you see the way the triangle is moving. So that is plane shape. So this is just a plane shape on 2D surface. Take note of this. Okay, so this is just a plane shape. It can be a circle. You can demonstrate a circle. Let me put a circle here. Let me create a radius of 2. So you can see that the circle appear in this side. As I move this around, you see the circle. As I move the circle around, you can see it's just moving on the flat surface. So this is a plane shape. It does not have any thickness. If I move this surface like this, you can only see a straight line. You can't see any thickness. This is what we are talking about plane shape. They don't have thickness, they only have length and breadth. But if I want to do, let me do something so that you see what will happen. Let me create a slider. I create a slider of 0.1 increment. Just watch what will happen. Let me come to this place. Let me extrude, like pulling this shape up. See, let me also pull this one up. So just watch what will happen. As I put this one to 0, you see there are also flat surfaces. These are just flat surfaces. But as I pull this along, you can see it's now having a thickness. Let me roll it around. See, it's now having a thickness. Let's stop it. See, it's having a thickness. Can pull it down, can pull it up. So take note of that. I can play around with this. So as I'm moving this 2D here, if you observe, this is also moving. As I move this around, see the solid shape is moving here. So this is just a plain surface. You are looking at it on the two surfaces, length and breadth. But this one you are viewing it on 3 dimension, length, breadth, and height. So that is that. All right. So now that you have seen this applet, and you can differentiate between plane shapes and solid shape. Let's finish the note and conclude our lesson. As I promised in class, I'm going to send you the link of this applet. Just click on it and play around with it at home so that you understand plane shapes very well in your own way. Now let's continue the note and end today's lesson. So these are the definitions of plane shapes. Okay, so these are the definitions of plane shapes. So take note of this. Now, these are the classification based on groups. I decided to classify plane shape before listing the types so that you know that plane shape, we have the ones that are covered by straight lines, which are called polygons. We have the plane shapes that are covered by curved lines, which are called curved shapes. Then we have the ones that are covered by both straight lines and curved lines. So these are the shapes with both straight and curved lines. So take note of that. In the next slide, you are going to see the names based on their type. So the plane shapes that are covered with straight lines, which are called polygon. The first example is triangle, that is 3 sides. Triangles have 3 sides. These are some examples: equilateral triangles, isosceles triangles, affine triangle, right angle triangle. Then we have plane shapes covered by 4 straight lines, which are the quadrilaterals, the square, the rectangle, the parallelogram, trapezium, rhombus, kite. So all these plane shapes, we are going to analyze them one by one, starting from tomorrow, looking at their properties, looking at their perimeters, looking at their areas. Then we have pentagon, we have hexagon. Take note of this. Then for shapes with curve alone, we have the circle, we have the oval shape, which are the ellipse. Take note of all this. Then finally, the ones with straight lines and curved lines, we have the semicircle, we have the sector, we have the segment. Take note of all this. So this is all we have for today. Don't forget, take note of the meaning of plane shapes. Take note of how I classify them based on the nature of their sides. Straight lines alone, polygon, curved shapes, which are like circles covered with curved lines, then straight line and curved lines are the semicircle and sectors. So that is all we did today. Tomorrow we continue with the properties of plane shape and we are going to analyze them one by one. Then finally, don't forget this applet. Don't forget this applet. Play around with it at home so that you will know how to use it. So that is that for today. So hope you enjoy watching this video. Take care and have a nice day.